Well, welcome to another episode of Rural Strong Live. I'm your host, Brent Adams, and today on the program, we're addressing the issue of legacy planning on the farm. 640 million acres of farmland are expected to change hands over the next 2 decades, and that's a huge generational shift. So today, I wanted to welcome into the program Bart Hester, who is a financial representative and insurance agent with Country Financial, to give us some tips for planning a smooth transition. And Bart, welcome into Real Strong Live.
Glad to be here, Brent.
How have you been?
Been doing well. Getting ready for the holidays. We definitely got the folks up in Kentucky and Illinois in our prayers right now. This has been a tough go for those, and my heart's heavy for them. So, but besides that, just the holidays are happening, and we're winding up harvest here, and things are going as usual.
Well, I tell you what, Bart is based in Moultrie, Georgia, and we had a chance to catch up with him here about a month ago at the Sunbelt Ag Expo, and was so impressed, with what they do, that I wanted to have him back here to discuss this important topic. Many farmers in the United States are working later in life because they believe they can't retire or they're in no rush to move on. And we're starting to see that change here. As we said earlier, the Department of Agriculture estimates that 70% of all farmland will likely change hands during the next 2 decades. In some instances, a multi-generational farm family is looking to turn the operation over to the next family member that'll serve as a principal, or other operators are going to be first-generation farmers. And you also have farmers out there who have no heirs or family members interested in taking over the farm. In any case, there's a whole lot to consider. I'd like to spend a few minutes here breaking down the options for farmers who are nearing retirement age. If I know I'm reaching that point, what questions should I be asking, and what considerations should I be making?
Well, Brent, that's what I would say would be the $1 million question. It's a very complex thought pattern and planning that will take place when deciding to retire or to pass on. A lot of the farmers will, have a child that's going to farm and not farm, and the equity between that there's just a lot to take in effect. Some of the first questions to ask usually is having a trusted person to talk with that's been through this, whether it be fellow farmers, whether it be your insurance agent who handles multiple times like that, as we do, whether it be other retiring specialists. But we really kind of break it down into 3 different situations where you talk about whether you're passing on the legacy to a family member that's farming, whether it be a son or a daughter or a daughter's husband. There's different scenarios for that. Then there's an employee style where they're passing along to an employee that's going to buy into the farm. And then there's sadly, a lot of it lately has been liquidation. You liquidate the farm, you keep some of the farmland for retirement income, and liquidate the farming equipment and stuff. So those are some of the things you start looking at. First and foremost, and we talk about this, and I'll probably say this more than once while we're talking today, is first and foremost is to have a plan, to sit down, to put something on paper, to take emotion out of it, especially when family comes to it. It's hard to differentiate from I love my children, I want to take care of them, to this is a business, and I've got to treat this like a business. And so the emotionality is usually one of the toughest hurdles for a farmer to overcome. Later we'll talk about farming and non-farming children and so forth. But those are the first things that we talk about.
Well, you kind of walked me into my next question, which is, I know, and we've observed these over the years here, that things can sometimes get a little contentious when emotion gets involved, especially if you're talking about multi-generational farming. And maybe there's some kids that want varying levels of participation going forward. Maybe there's one that really wanted a part that isn't getting a fair shake. There's another one that really is being thrown a lot, really doesn't want a whole lot to do with it. How do parents treat farming and non-farming children different fairly?
Well, I mean, we take a situation where you have a son that wants to farm and you have a daughter that doesn't want to farm, but you want to be equitable to both of them about, the assets of the farm as they are for, heritage. And the non-farming child sometimes will get out on the bad side of the unfair shake,
Right.
because if in a real life situation they pass it on and 50% of the farm's owned by the non-farming and 50% is owned by the farming, well, the guy who's farming or the woman who's farming really does all the work and gets 50% of the pay, and the other one gets 50% of the pay and doesn't do any work.
Right.
So to bring fairness to that, first and foremost, again, you have to really kind of take the emotionality of passing it on to children out of the picture, and certainly plan ahead as soon as possible. One thing about this younger generation that's taking over, they're already talking about an exit strategy. They've watched their parents and their grandparents work until they basically die, and they don't want to do that. So
Right.
we're starting to have that conversation with younger farmers in their 40s and 50s instead of having it with them in their 60s and 70s, and they're trying to squeeze it all in to enjoy a little bit of life, down the road. But the sooner the better. Having someone that you can trust to sit down and help navigate that is absolutely paramount, in my opinion, because that's a disinterested third party. They bring truth to the table. And as a insurance agent with Country, I try to, show them solutions to being fair. One of the most equitable ways to pass on a farm is to make sure, especially in a non-farming situation, is life insurance. You buy a life insurance policy so that the farming child can buy out the assets and property of the non-farming. So then there's an equitable transfer as far as money and heritage. Other situations where there's not, we can look over those as we go along today. But that breaks it down as much as we can on the.
Well, when you talk about, you mentioned a couple key words there, fairness and equity. Is there a difference between fairness and equality, and can you have one without the other?
Well, I've seen it where one gets it all and the other's pretty much out of it. And then I've seen, there's been times where there's not fairness. I think that most parents in their heart of hearts want to be fair and pass along the legacy to the children. If there's two 50-50, if there's three, a third each. But that takes planning. And to be fair, planning has to take effect. And again, I'll probably say it more than once. It's important to have a plan. You can't just kind of fly by the seat of your pants on this thing. So.
All right. When we talk about planning being key, what are some of the essential keys to building a solid retirement plan?
Well, believe it or not, most farmers have done some, but they don't have all of their financial affairs in order. And I say financial affairs, when I talk about that, I'm talking about first and foremost a will that absolutely states what they want to have done. In the event that even in the event where the farming husband passes away and the wife is still there and she supposedly supposed to inherit, there should be some way of passing along that farm even after that fact. Most of these guys have been self-started all their lives, and they want to control what happens, as they have in the farming part of it as much as possible. So wills, I tell them a good attorney would make a big difference in this, having a power of attorney present for in the case of incapacity. An advanced medical directive is always a plus. And then, you know, we turn the word a financial go bag. Life insurance, medical insurance, you know, Social Security, birth dates, the basic items that would go into a financial plan, or the plan to have someone take over in case of incapacity or death.
Mhm. Well, and that's important, and I think there's a lot of times where people will retreat when you start talking about all these things because it's a lot, and it's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about, maybe a bit overwhelming. But we've also seen scenarios in which the principal will die in an accident or have a heart attack out there, or something will happen. Then all of a sudden you leave a widow who has been relatively detached from some of the day-to-day operations, and all of a sudden she's sitting here saying, whoa, now what? And you've got somebody who's really overwhelmed, not only struggling with loss, but also having to struggle with how to you take what can be somewhat of a complex matter here and make sense of it in the midst of all of that.
Yeah, I think that's where having a trusted relationship with, your insurance agent and attorney, there's several operators that need to be, but, I know that I've been doing this for a couple of decades myself. And that's one thing that I find extremely important in my relationship with farming families, is to bring up these things. Years ago we had the, word about taxes and passing on. So there was opportunities there. Then lots have changed in that, and lots will continue to change as far as, taxable estate taxes. And that's a first one. That's a first question, as we talked about before. But I guess what I led with earlier was, that we're starting to have this conversation with the younger generation. And as they have it, it also brings to mind the issue to the older generation that's here that will turn over things in the next 2 decades. So I just think it's really important that because of the size of that type business and the complexity of it, having a plan, using a trusted agent or person to talk to about helping along in that plan really makes sense nowadays to our farming and ranching families.
And I'm sure some people, when they approach you, are just totally in the wilderness, don't even know where to begin. From where you sit, how will it help you? What can folks bring to the table, or at least be thinking about when they approach you and you sit down and begin to have these conversations?
Well, first of all, what do they want to do for themselves? Do they want to stop farming at, say, 65, 70? The very first step is what I want to do with me. And then from that point on, we need to talk about what we're going to do to transition the farm, what we're going to do to transition it either to, in the event of an early death or a time, a regular lifelong death. Those are the things. But let me just simplify it, Brent.
Yeah.
Coming to the table, asking, how can I help? How can you help? Or how can we do this to find where I can transfer the farm and have a retirement instead of working until I'm basically dead?
Right.
So
Well,
the first step is wanting to.
And maybe this doesn't need to be stated, but I would imagine it's something you see all the time. Attitude probably plays a big factor in how successful you're going to be going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Absolutely.
So I know this is such an important issue, and it's only going to become that much more prevalent in the coming years. How is Country Financial positioned to be able to help farmers address their legacy planning needs?
Well, other than the legal solutions, we offer just about any other solution that will help them plan for that transition and make that transition from retirement to passing on the legacy to the new farm family / operator to make an assumption into that business. So in general, we offer most of the solutions that could possibly be needed and have the experience. Most of the country agents that deal with farm families, and we offer that throughout, has that experience. They've been doing this a while. They know the steps, and they know how to handle the different situations, not just a cookie cutter. We didn't get this one at school,
Right.
We've lived this with different families and different situations.
Well, we've talked a lot about the parties that are passing the baton, but what about the folks who are receiving the baton? How, if you are just taking over as a principal or a key decision maker on the farm, how can you best set yourself up for long-term success?
You can use the experience of those that have come before you, but you can also start planning immediately for next month, next year, the following year. Business planning, family planning. I know that a lot of times when I sit down and talk to young farmers, and I'm talking about under 30, I will sit there and tell them, look, we'll take care of making sure you're insured properly on your farm. That's my job. That's what you pay me for. But you take care of your family right now. You're in the family business, along with farming. Your first concern needs to be taking care of those children and that your wife. And so that's where the planning starts for success is, well, you probably understand this as just as well as anybody else that's watching today, is that a balanced life tends to be more successful than an unbalanced life. And I think at Country, we give them the solutions that can assist them as they live that part of their lives and transitioning and taking over the farming business.
Well, you're speaking words of conviction now.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
As you've been in this over the years, how have you seen needs change, and how have you seen a Country Financial change to adapt to those needs?
The basic needs, Brent, really to me haven't changed much. Again, it's family. You want to make sure that you got proper coverages for what your needs are, depending on your family business, your operation. And other than, I don't know, irrigation was nothing 20 years ago.
Right.
Now irrigation's everything. So other than, really having replacement value on those, and the tractors nowadays they're heavy equipment. They're no longer your Massey Ferguson 135. They're just they're huge and expensive, and having the right kind of property coverage, liability. Oh gosh, there's a lot of things that have adapted over the years, especially for employee liability, workers' compensation, and Country continues to push the envelope when it comes to that, making sure that our farm families are, as we use the word, core clients, are covered properly.
Well, if folks want to know more about the information and services provided by Country Financial, where can they go to find those?
Country's got a great website. Countryfinancial.com is fantastic. It also has a locator so that no matter where we are, you can stick your zip code in there and it'll give you an area where the local agents are. If you're in Georgia, you can give me a call. But we all agents have their own websites, and then there's also our customer care number, which can get you anywhere, which is 888-COUNTRY. So
we'll make sure you check all of that out. And Bart, this is all very important information. As always, it's been great talking with you here. We invite you to come back anytime to discuss legacy planning and other financial management topics.
Absolutely, Brent. I would love to. And it's good talking with you. I enjoyed meeting you in person at the expo.
We'll continue to keep this conversation going here because this is all really important stuff here, and it's going to become that much more, as you say, as farming becomes more complex and more needs are out there. So we'll keep doing that. We want to thank you so much for joining us today and let you know the Tractors and Troubadours podcast is off and running. Each week, we bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational topics, outdoor lifestyle features, and the best in traditional country music. And a podcast can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, Audible, Odyssey, and YouTube. We'd be honored if you'd subscribe and give us a rating and leave a comment so we can propel this content to as many listeners as possible. We'd also be honored if you'd pay a visit to our brand new website, ruralstrongmedia.com. The website features the Tractors and Troubadours podcast, as well as our live streams, educational blogs, and a 24/7 internet radio station, Rural Strong Radio, which features traditional country music and some of our original ag content. Again, the place to find all of that is ruralstrongmedia.com. We want to thank our sponsors today, Concept Agritech, Gateway Seed, and GoatLifeClothing.com. Make sure you go check all of them out. We thank them so much for their support. A couple items of note. Tomorrow, I will be at the Indianapolis Farm and Technology Show, which is at Grand Park in Westfield, just outside of Indianapolis. Gary Truitt, who is the founder of Hoosier Ag Today, is going to be putting on that show. They do a great job. It's in a new venue this year, Grand Park, which is a beautiful facility, and that show started yesterday. It runs through tomorrow, so make sure you're staying with us here. We'll do some live check-ins tomorrow, so you can find out the latest. If you happen to be going to that show tomorrow, make sure you look us up. We will be around there and would love to meet you. And also, the next episode of Tractors and Troubadours is going to hit this coming Friday. We speak with the U.S. Labor Secretary on the show this week. We talk about the new infrastructure and jobs package and what that means for rural America. We also talk with the incoming National Cattlemen's Beef Association President Don Schiefelbein about the state of the beef cattle industry and about the upcoming NCBA convention. So you're not going to want to miss any of that. Again, Tractors and Troubadours drops Friday wherever you get your podcast. So a lot going on here, and we will have some of that conversation here with the U.S. Secretary of Labor that will show up on the socials later on today. So make sure you listen to that. We'll have some outtakes. He's got some interesting insights there. So we are going to get out of here for now. And we hope you come back and join us next time. We are on the live streams. We're going to have a bunch of country music and agriculture live streams coming up here in the next few weeks as we get ready to launch into 22. So now for Bart Hester, it's Brent Adams. We'll be back again next time, and we'll talk to you later. Have a great day.